All right. Good morning, everyone. So we are on chapter 35 of Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj's book, I Am That. And the title of this chapter is The Greatest Guru is Your Inner Self. Yeah, and it's one of those interesting things in spiritual life. It asks a lot of questions up front, usually, about the necessity of a guru. And the situation that most of us find ourselves in is that the voice of our ego, the narrative of mind run by the ego is quite strong and very opinionated and very eager to give us personal advice all the time. The voice of the guru is a much softer voice. It's kind of a more of a magnetic voice, kind of gentle nudgings or whatnot, and more quiet knowings, as it were. And so in the beginning, it's very hard to hear the inner guru because we're very accustomed to living according to the voice of our ego, that voice that fills our heads or some people's heads all the time. And we can't hear the voice of ourself, of our inner guru, above the cacophony of the world of change. We've moved our identity into mind, we've talked about. And with all that change going on, we're very interested in all of that noise and flash and glitter and danger and reward. And we can't hear this inner guru. And so in the beginning, in particular, and the beginning can be lifetimes, depending on, our dedication to the task and our absorption of grace in there, that in the beginning, it's very important to have a voice giving you instruction in spiritual life that's outside of yourself. Because the greatest task that's necessary in our spiritual practice is this breakdown of egoism, this breaking down of this identity with body mind, and being identified with that particular and all of the desires encapsulated in that experience of being a body mind. And at the beginning, we need someone outside of our ego sphere. We need somebody that's outside of what we like and what we don't like, what we believe and what we don't believe, to help us choose a path or to make our way forward. If we leave our ego in charge, then we start a path of I like-isms. I like this practice and I like this practice. But there might be some practices that you don't like at all that might be very necessary for you, that left to your own devices you wouldn't even consider. And so it's great and very important to have a guru who's outside of your ego sphere, who can give you advice and give you objective training that can move you forward in ways that you won't be able to do as easily on your own. Of course, mother will still get you there, but it's just a matter of how quickly. The rest of us don't want to be at the top of the hill waiting for you to make it, because you won't have anybody help you push your chair up the hill. so that's what I'm saying. Let's get it going so we can all get there together, and we won't have to sit at the top and yell at you. So our questioner starts off. He says, on all sides, I hear that freedom from desires and inclinations is the first condition of self-realization. But I find the condition impossible of fulfillment. Ignorance of oneself causes desires, and desires perpetuate ignorance, a truly vicious circle. Oh, yes, it's when you are the ego self and as heavily identified with body mind like we are, and attached to, the attachment to body mind causes us to adopt those desires, those feelings and inclinations as our own. And so we see them as our desires, and we see them as our longings. And when you own something like that, getting any separation from that, any control over that, is very, very difficult, because it feels like you're denying yourself, right? And in a sense, you are, because that is the experience of it. But in fact, you're not doing anything to yourself. You're trying to find the self. You're trying to see where the boundaries are between this ego and this self, this mind and this body, and my observer inside, which is the self. Uh, and we do get caught in a terrible circle about it, and it gives us all of these feelings of being attacked. Like, how come I can't do this? How come I can't do that? Oh, this isn't that bad. Why do they make such a big deal out of it? And we're constantly in a state of defensiveness in the early in the early days of our practice, and certainly the first decade in the monastery. And so this inner guru, wonderful place to find within yourself. It takes dedication to get below your ego, and it takes a lot of introspection, a lot of study of your inner world, so that you can find out your ego, so that you can visibly see your separation from body mind. It's very important to start paying attention on your inner world for that. So let's go with Maharaj here. He says, there are no conditions to fulfill. All right. So he's saying your idea that freedom from desires and inclinations is the first condition of self-realization. He says, no, it's not. These freedom from desires and inclinations is actually already the case. You just have to sort out who you are in there. So it's not a condition, because you're not changing the self. You're not adding anything to yourself in order to come to this knowledge of self. But you're having to understand who you are. Find that free part of you, that part of you right now that's already free, that part of you that exists right now at the very heart of you, that does not have a desire. It is not driven by the hungers and thirsts of the body or the moods and requirements of the mind. It is an independent, ever free, ever pure, beloved experience of the divine presence within you. And it's there all the time. It's there right now. And the fact that it's there is why, in a sense, you know that it's not there, right? Or that you don't have a sense of it. You don't have a feeling of it. But you intuitively know the possibility, right? It's because of the unchanging in you that you can recognize all the change going on around you. It's because of your not being in the body that the body has to talk to you, has to report to you, and tell you how it's doing and how it's feeling and what it needs, and all the different ways that it does that. And the same with the mind. The mind has to communicate to you. You wake up, and at first you think it's going to be a great day, and then you realize the mind's in a bad mood. You're like, oh God, here we go. Here we are. And you're wondering, oh, what do I do? What do I do? I'm in such a bad mood. Well, of course, your first thing is stop saying I am moody, right? Just, again, remind yourself of those three things that you're able to say about yourself. And anybody not on mute that I can pick on? Nope, everybody's muted. So, but you have to know that there's only those three things that you can say about yourself, right? That I am, I exist, that I'm loving, I can see and feel love and express love, and that I am wise, or I have intelligence. I'm learning from my mistakes. I'm growing ever closer based on what I'm learning. And so those three things are the things you can say about yourself. It's a good place to start for separating out yourself from body-mind, right? Is stop using the word I to describe the desires of the body and the desires of the mind, right? So stop saying, oh, I love spaghetti. You don't love spaghetti any more than you love rocks. But the body has a preference for spaghetti. The taste buds has a preference for spaghetti. The mind may have a preference for spaghetti, but you don't have a preference. You are every mouth all around the world, eating grasshoppers in Mexico City and snakes in China and, rotten eggs in the Philippines, and you're loving all of it. And this is the potential of all of us. We don't have specific desires. The body and mind have desires. You will never find the self, the eternally content center of your being. You'll never find a desire arising from there. This is one of the second tier of lessons that I learned in there, because I started noticing where my desires come from. That they are, basically, what's he say? Expectation born of memory, right? So something happens in your current environment that sparks the memory of a pleasure, and then the body takes up that idea of pleasure and expects it, and that's a desire. And when you go inside and you realize, you kind of find out what you've done the homework that we talked about, going inside, closing your eyes, and exploring what does it mean to have a body, right? And so you touch your body and you feel like, okay, how does that? Do you see how it communicates touch to me? Now, and just you kind of learn about it. What's interesting is that touch is not geolocated. You have to cross-reference with your eyes to know where your body parts are. Your body parts don't communicate position, interestingly enough, when you touch them. They have to be cross-referenced with sight. And so you start seeing things like that in there. And you start realizing that you have to ask questions and get answers to know the state of the body. And you're not feeling the body all at once. You're feeling parts of it that you focus on. So it's going into your interior world, finding out the relationship between the body and you, the observer, the relationship between the mind and you, the observer. And then, very interesting, the relationship between the mind and the body, and how familiar they are with each other, in not in a intelligent knowing kind of way, but just in a mechanical sort of inverse relationship that they have with each other. And so you go into your mind, you become familiar with your inner world, become familiar with how it's put together in there. And the more silently you slowly step back from that identity, as you begin to get accustomed to watching the body rather than being the body, and watching the mind rather than being the mind, then it starts to betray a lot more of your secrets. And this is where you start to fall into what Ramakrishna says: when you dive deep, when you go below the mind, go below the waves of thought, that you find all these gems scattered about in there. And they, in fact, are there for you to find. And some of them are very shallow. Some of them you don't have to be very good at this stuff at all to find. And some of them, I assume they can be found, having not yet found them myself. But you go inside and you get a sense of your immortality. You get a sense of eternity. You see the difference between time and outside of time. All these little lessons lie within you. But it's a matter of acceptance and a matter of grace, because he says there are no conditions to fulfill. Being what you are is what you're doing right now. You just don't have it sorted out, exactly who you are in the being right now. There is nothing to be done, nothing to be given up. Just look and remember, whatever you perceive is not you. There it is. There's the rule. Whatever you perceive is not you. Why? Because it has to be outside of you to be perceived, right? You can't perceive, like what Vivekananda told that young boy, you can't perceive your face, but you know its existence, right? And so this is how God is. God is closer to us than our own face. And so we can't objectify that isness, the I am. It is there in the field of consciousness, but you are not the field and its contents, nor even the knower of the field. It is your idea that you have to do things that entangle you in the results of your efforts. The motive, the desire, the failure to achieve, the sense of frustration, all of this holds you back. Simply look at whatever happens and know that you are beyond it. Then this can go a very long way. This is that acceptance of grace that I'm talking about. To have the ability to assume things like your perfection, like your, that your nature is pure love, that your nature is pure wisdom, that you're not this body. These are things that the mind pushes against because the mind holds its karma and takes it very seriously. And it wants you to work everything through as a matter of causation. But we know that realization is not caused. It's the only effect that has no cause. And so that means it's already prepared within you. But to get past the requirements of your own mind, to get past the own demands of your own mind, that you have to achieve this, or you have to stop doing this, or you have to become purer in this way, or you have to get the mind quieter in that way. That's the mind struggling to keep the ego alive, to keep that identity alive between you and itself. But in fact, if you can let go, if you can accept the grace of the mother, if you can't accept the grace of the beloved, then the work is a bit harder, because it's not that you then have to do it yourself. It's that you have to try doing it yourself for so long that you get exhausted and come to the realization that you can't do it by yourself. And that can take a very long time, right? Hafiz has a wonderful poem about that, where some young man wants to come to him and be a monk and is trudging to the top of the mountain because he wants to be the yogi sitting at the top of the mountain. And, the Hafiz is asking him, he asks Hafiz, how much farther to the top of the mountain? And Hafiz is interested, why are you going to the top of the mountain? He says, I'm going to dedicate my life to finding God. And Hafiz says, but God is as close as the pink lining of your stomach. And he says, you don't have to go up there and eat bark and sit in the snow. You can just sit here and enjoy the presence of the divine. And the man says, no, I will renounce the world, and I will. And so Hafiz tips his hat to him, says, okay, very good. Go up and eat some bark and freeze in the snow and realize God. Many blessings. And then he turns around and in his own bliss continues down the hill. So we get these ideas that these things are necessary. We construct these narratives in our mind, and we're bound to them, and this is the thing. I know that we're bound because I know that I know of people that have been asking the same question at retreats every single year for the last 25 years. And devotees, when we open it for Q&A, I swear the first 5 or 8 questions are always the same 5 or 8 questions. And there's always the question, my mind, I can't quiet my mind. Well, how do I quiet my mind? And, we get the same answers over and over again. And really, the only real answer is stop being so interested in it. Stop being so interested in the change of your mind, and then it will shut up of its own accord, right? That's all that's necessary. I remember I visited my grandparents. They've passed away years ago now, but this was in Arkansas when I was when I was in high school. And my grandmother, she had a little bit of a condition. She liked to talk. And I mean, she really talked. Like, she was the kind of person, for instance, I sat there that first afternoon that I arrived at her house. I sat at the dining room table for 4.5 hours and did not say a word. I knew every neighbor that I had never met. I knew what they had for dinner. I know what dress they had just purchased. I know whose son had just gotten in trouble and where he was. And at the end of that 4.5 hours, and I felt obligated, to sit there and to listen and to be the good grandchild. And my grandfather came in at about that 4.5 hour period to watch his daily Wheel of Fortune on on television. And so he had the big Easy Boy chair. They had actually his and hers Easy Boys there. He sat down and was watching, and he put that chair back. About 30 seconds into it, Grandma still just let me know about everybody in town. He just barely looks up and he goes, Bernal, shut up. Boom. My grandma, Bernal, shut up immediately, didn't say another word. And I was like, I wonder if that would have worked if I did that. But see, we subject ourselves to these things and create these scenarios of suffering for ourselves because we make wrong assumptions, right? This trek toward God is not a trek toward God. God is everywhere present and always perfect. This finding God is not finding God. God is everywhere present. Where did he go that you can't find him? If you can't find something that's everywhere present, we've got another series of classes for you that we need to go back to. These assumptions that you make about your relationship with the beloved are assumptions, and their power is only as powerful as your attachment to them, to your insistence that they're true, or that the insistence that this line of reasoning is the only one, right? And this is why grace, just grace, grace, because there's two ways through. You can untie all the knots. It's going to take a long time. It's going to take a lot of work. It's going to be very, very arduous for you. Or you can just cut the knot, just cut the rope. And grace is the knife for cutting the ropes of bondage, for cutting the ropes of your attachments. So accept that grace as deeply as you can by what? Singing the names and glories of God all the time, just remembering the great love that's available, remembering and seeing it all around you, remembering that light and love are one, until you just completely indulge in all of these love letters that Mother is sending you constantly and begin to recognize them everywhere around you. And then you begin to receive them gracefully, right? Oh, thanks, Ma. Oh my God, that was beautiful. Oh, look at that one. You start living a life of really just an expressed joy when you're living by grace like that. And then when the mind brings up problems, you just chuckle, like, yeah, there is that. And you keep going, right? You just keep going. Don't let your practice ever take the smile off your face. Don't let your practice become drudgery, become difficult, become like that. Grab that flask. Grab that flask of divine bliss out of the bartender's hand. Huffy says, accept some of that bliss that the Mother has given you, because that bliss is what's remaining when you stop doing and stop being. When you just relax into yourself, when the cacophony quiets, that bliss is the natural hum of being. It requires no effort, no maintenance. You just have to remember it, because it's a white noise. It's a constant, unchanging experience of bliss. And because of that, the mind easily filters it out, like it does. The mind filters out unchanging things, which is very odd. Almost as if Mother really is teasing us on purpose in this. And that's why he says there, it's your idea that you have to do things that entangle you in the results of your efforts, the motive, the desire, the failure to achieve, the sense of frustration. All of this holds you back. Simply look at whatever happens and know that you are beyond it, right? When you hear that thing that hooks you, like, oh, whoa, I'm hooked. And then you look at it and you say, why am I hooked? How does that affect me? And reason your way through it. And then you undo the tangle. See, this affects the body. I assumed it affected me. It changed my mood. It made me angry. It got me worked up. All of those things. And you see, if we learn to catch them soon enough, they're trivial problems. They go at the first glance at them. They burn up. But when we're not aware of them and we're not seeing them, then they get bigger, and then they become troublesome. And then they convince us of states of being. We're convinced that we're not realized. We're convinced that we can't do this. We're convinced that we've got a long time ahead. All these things. And then one of the dangers with bhakti is that we start treating God like a person, and we start projecting all of our own emotional turmoils on the divine. And then we have to start dealing with an angry God and a jealous God and a petulant God and a mean God, and all of these things, all of our own imperfections we project on the divine. And then everything is horrible. Then your whole religion then becomes spoiled and stinky. So don't. That's all he's saying. Just don't. Don't buy the ticket. Know that you've already got the ticket. Simply look at whatever happens and know that you are beyond it. And you can actually go to that place of beyond it. That place of that center within you, that shrine of the heart, is where you go to be beyond all thought. You can be unreachable by thought down there. You can turn off the cell phone of the mind down there. Does it mean that I should abstain from doing anything? Right? Okay. You can't. What goes on must go on. If you stop suddenly, you will crash. All right. It's the same thing as Holy Mother telling that young disciple who sat down next to her and declared, I'm not going to get up from the seat until I realize God. And she chuckles a little bit, smiles, and looks at him and says, you may say so, but your karma itself will throw you off of that chair. Right? So there's this knowing. And so it's not that we can do anything different. It's a matter of realizing I'm not the doer. This isn't something to be done. This is an isness to be recognized, not a doing to be accomplished. Big difference. So it's a very important point. It's definitely going to be on the test. Right? That practice, spiritual life, is not a doership to achieve an accomplishment, right? It's recognizing an isness, recognizing a nature of being that you have wrongly observed or wrongly considered in the past. And that as soon as you get that sorted out, then you will see all the truth of all of this. As long as you remain attached to body-mind, there's going to be the story of ego. And for each one of us, that's going to be different. But it's generally along the lines of, you're broken, something's wrong with you, you've got to fix it, and it's going to take a long time. And I'll be patient with the Divine Mother to get this thing done. And we sit in that gloom, wondering why it's not happening. But in fact, all we need to be doing is recognizing the bliss within and allowing ourselves to enjoy it without a reason, without an explanation, without a cause. Accept the fact that you are Satchitananda, that your fundamental reality is love and wisdom, that the presence of God is constant and overwhelming, and all you have to do is assume it, accept it, and respond in gratitude, right? Which will be your life at that point. So does it mean we should abstain from doing anything? You can't. What goes on must go on. If you stop suddenly, you will crash. Questioner, is it a matter of the known and the knower becoming one? I just love how he goes from these very rudimentary questions, very fundamental questions, to then suddenly this question, as if the answer to this question is the only problem. Oh, is it a matter of the known and the knower becoming one? Oh, is that what I was supposed to be doing? Maharaj, being much kinder than I am, says, oh, well, both ideas are in the mind, right? So understand, but you should be observing and understanding that all these things that are arising for you, where are they arising? They're arising in your mind. Even though you think you're having the conversation with me, that's because of your attachment to your mind, which is then engaging with this mind, right? So both are ideas in the mind and words that express them. There is no self in them. See, this is the thing. The thoughts of your mind are not you. The things that your mind is telling you is not you telling yourself something. Like we always interpret it that way. Oh, I'm talking to myself. No, you're not talking to yourself. The mind is making noise and you're listening. That's what's happening. You're not talking to yourself. Oh, I'm thinking about it. Let me think about it for a moment. No, you're not thinking about it. The mind is making noise and you're being entertained by it. What is the mind going to tell you, the listener, that you, the mind, the speaker, doesn't already know? It's not, it doesn't work that way, right? The mind is not going to come up with a new idea. And so really what you're trying to do is achieve is silence. In that silence, things become clear. In that non-activity of mind, that non-invasive use of mind, there's a wisdom that comes through silence, a knowing that comes through silence, a silence which happens through detachment from the body and its conditions and the mind and its conditions, moving to this place inside where you can see they had nothing and never did have anything to do with me. So both of these ideas are in the mind, the idea of doing or not doing, of abstaining and not abstaining. Both ideas are in the mind and words that express them. So words that express them, you'll always know that they're coming from the unreal, because you can't speak an unchanging word. Right? Every sentence, word, language is changing constantly. So you have to come to know that your mind isn't going to tell you what God is. Remember, this is what I learned from Swami Tattvamaya that morning when I was helping him move in. And he had 14 folders, 14 big binders, thick binders with handwritten papers, all just stuffed in them, full and overflowing. And I was putting them on the shelf, and I asked him, Maharaj, what are these? And he says, oh, that's just some of my unpublished works, right? And we had that conversation where he says, he said to me, the scriptures aren't there to tell you anything about God, because there's nothing that you can be told about God. So the scriptures are there to tell you what God is not, so that which is obvious can become apparent to you. I love, 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 love that sentence, so that which is obvious can become apparent to you. Right? So this whole thing that we're trying to do is so obvious, right? God is everywhere present and always perfect. Well, where is your idea of yourself coming from then? Right? If God is everywhere present and always perfect, we think, oh yeah, okay. Where are you in that scenario? If God is everywhere present, where are you? And why this insistence on your presence in that, if it's God that's everywhere present, right? You're not the body. So why associate yourself with its conditions and its circumstances? Go inside to your quiet place, and when the body tries to tell you something, just look at it and understand that has nothing to do with me. And go back to your silence, go back to your peace. And the mind comes up with something. Oh, I'm restless. That has nothing to do with me. And you go back to your place and sit in your silence, right? And in that place is your fulfillment in life. So is it a matter of the known and the knower becoming one? Both ideas are in the mind and words that express them. There is no self in them. There's nothing to do with you. The self is not there. The self is neither between nor beyond. To look for it on the mental level is futile, right? To try and find yourself is futile. To try and figure out, who am I? That I read that wonderful statement about this question of who am I the other day. It said, I think it must have been Jnana Yoga. I was reading that in, where he says that the question, who am I, was never meant to be answered. It was meant to dissolve the questioner, right? So your answering that question will lead you to dissolve the nature of yourself, because you will start to realize you're peeling an onion, taking one layer off at a time. And when you get to the heart and are getting ready to eat the delicious insides of an onion, you realize there was no inside to the onion. Doggone it. And so this is what we're doing as we go here. To look for the self on the mental level is futile. So to be in the mental state, to look through mental states, to wander through your minds. This was a warning Swami Prabhupada gave me about doing therapy. I asked his permission when I was feeling so depressed a couple decades ago now. I asked if I could go to therapy, and he said, yes, that would be a good idea. But he says, when you go to therapy, be careful. He says, the answers do not lie in your mind. Do as you're told and follow the instructions, but don't think that by rummaging through your mind, you will find the cause and answer to your conditions in this moment. He says, because the mind, he says, it's a constant changing bag of elements. It will provide you answers that it makes up on the spot. It will show you conditions that it associates with one another that it's doing on the spot, not because there's any truth to it. It's just picking through the endless number of things that can be associated with each other in the mind. You won't find your solution there. He says, but study how you're looking. Study who's looking. Pay attention to who's rummaging in the mind and how you rummage in the mind and what it feels like to rummage in the mind. He says, become aware of the process, become aware of yourself in that effort. Don't go rummaging too deeply thinking that that's where the answers are. And so that was always very, very helpful for me. And this is where he's saying it to you. To look for it on the mental level is futile. Stop searching and see. Very right. Remember Vivekananda saying, stop seeking God and see him. Right? Stop looking for your enlightenment and enjoy it. Enjoy your enlightenment, your awareness of God. Stop trying to be aware of God and just enjoy your awareness of God. Right? You see the difference? You're making the assumption, I'm aware of God. You're making the assumption, I'm realized. And then you enjoy that. Don't question it. The mind's going to laugh at you because the ego always laughs at others. Right? It's going to make fun of you for taking such a giant step and being so presumptuous. It is utterly presumptuous. And that's the delightfulness of it. You know, that's the delight, because that presumption is of a grace that is real, of a love that is real. And so you're allowed to presume. It is safe to presume it, you know. The only thing that we watch after that is we make sure that we've assumed properly, because the fruits of assuming properly are light and love and service and compassion and self-control. You know, these are the fruits of being aware of the presence of God. And so if it becomes a license to where you just stop caring about your faults, you just stop caring about the way things are, that's very different from from knowing that they have nothing to do with you and allowing the expression then of Satchitananda. Right? The expression of love should flow freely and easily into the space of not identifying with body and mind. Stop searching and see. It is here and it is now. Right? That again, that little practice that I was working on is very nice. You know, to be here and to be now, and only allow issues that are here and that are right now come into the room with me. Don't let yesterday's work, don't let tomorrow's business meeting, don't let last night's problem, this morning's argument, don't let those things come into the here and now. They don't belong to the here and now. They belong to the not here and the not now. And so sort that out when you're sitting there trying to find your silence. That takes you a good way down that trail of getting rid of the noise in your mind if you sit there and sort out not here, not now from here and now. Right? And keep those ones at bay that are not here, not now, by telling your mind, not here, not now. Right? And so this is a great way of coming to this place where you can enjoy the presence, because at least now you've settled out the things that are not of your moment. And so you can know, in this moment, my realization exists. Stop searching and see. It is here and now. It is that I am that you know so well. All you need to do is to cease taking yourself to be within the field of consciousness, right? Stop treating yourself as the thought of yourself, right? Stop putting a thought of yourself into the mind and then living with that thought of yourself in this world of consciousness, this field of consciousness. You are not in the field of consciousness. You are that itself. You know, you are the awareness. And so pull yourself out. Stop searching and see it, which means have no particular interest, no particular perspective, no particular identity in it. Just see the whole thing. Don't attach to anything in particular. The mind will always want to go grab a particular. That's what the disease of egoism is, constantly grabbing particulars. You want to stay generally aware. Let all of God in at once, as it were, and sit in that beautiful stillness and observe the cacophony of the manifestation. Observe the chaos of the manifestation of an infinite forms of love being expressed simultaneously. So cease taking yourself to be within the field of consciousness. Unless you have already considered these matters carefully, listening to me once will not do. Forget your past experiences and achievements. Stand naked, exposed to the winds and rains of life, and you will have a chance. Right? Very, very, very nice idea here. Forget your past experiences. They're not there. They're just being gyrated around by the current moment in a state of delusion. So forget your past experiences, forget your achievements. Really, because in reality, there are none. It's hard for a non-doer to have achievements. So any achievements you've collected for yourself were a wrong assumption, right? They were wrong assumptions. So forget your past experience, forget your achievements, stand naked, right? Stand naked. That means have nothing. Nothing. Stand naked. That means have nothing. You know, nowhere to hide your hands, nowhere to hide your flaws, nowhere to, you know, cover anything. You just stand and know, you know, in that standing that all is well. God is my closest and nearest sweetness. The forgiveness is complete and done already. My realization lies like a gem in my own heart. You know, just by my awareness of it brings me joy, brings me celebration, you know. And so you stand naked, unashamed, unafraid, not needing anything, knowing of yourself to be fully accepted, fully integrated, and that in fact the universe is going through you at this moment. You are not separate from it. You are in it and of it, you know, and more and beyond. So forget your past experiences and achievements. Stand naked, exposed to the winds and the rains of life, meaning having no resistance, seeking no shelters, needing no protections, just letting it all go through you, knowing that it has nothing to do with you, that your reality is untouchable. Do this and you will have a chance. Has devotion or bhakti any place in your teaching? When you are not well, you go to a physician who tells you what is wrong and what is the remedy. If you have confidence in him, it makes things simple. You take the medicine, you follow the diet restrictions, and you get well. But if you do not trust him, you may still take a chance, or you may study medicine yourself. In all cases, it is your desire for recovery that moves you, not the physician. Without trust, there is no peace. Somebody or other you always trust. It may be your mother or your wife. Of all the people, the knower of the self, the liberated man, is the most trustworthy. But merely to trust is not enough. You must also desire. Without desire for freedom, of what use is the confidence that you can acquire freedom? Desire and confidence must go together. The stronger your desire, the easier comes the help. The greatest guru is helpless as long as the disciple is not eager to learn. Eagerness and earnestness are all important. Confidence will come with experience. Be devoted to your goal, and devotion to him who can guide you will follow. If your desire and confidence are strong, they will operate and take you to your goal, for you will not cause delay by hesitation and compromise. The greatest guru is your inner self. Truly, he is the supreme teacher. He alone can take you to your goal, and he alone meets you at the end of the road. Confide in him, and you need no outer guru. But again, you must have a strong desire to find him and to do nothing that will create obstacles and delays. And do not waste energy and time on regrets. Learn from your mistakes and do not repeat them. There it is. There it is. That's a lot. Let's go through that again. All right. So he's kind of pointing around bhakti. He's showing how in the formation of this desire for freedom, in the formation of this recognition of love and this quest for an ideal, that we place ourselves in relationship to that. And so there's going to be a usefulness to this. There's going to be a helpfulness to it. And from our vantage point and level of consciousness at that point, it will be real, right? But it's this trust that we need, right? That's why, remember, in the Vedanta Sarat, is it where they talk about the ideal student, and then all he has to do for the ideal student, the only thing the teacher has to do is bend over and say in his ear, "Thou art that." And because he was a perfect student and everything was in its place, as soon as that phrase went through his mind, all the dominoes fell into place, everything became stable, and boom, he knows, right? The reality for him is true. And so that's because he trusted the words, right? Sri Nisargadatta in another place, one of his questioner asks him, well, what's the difference between you and me? How come you're realized and I'm not? And Sri Nisargadatta says something quite startling. He said, there's only one thing that's different between you and I. He said, when my teacher told me I am that, I believed him. You believe you have something else to learn or need to study something more thoroughly, right? He says in a chess game between God and a saint, the saint's first move is always to lay down his king, right? He says the sinner will move his pawn, will think that he actually has a first move against God in chess, right? So this is the level of our knowing. When you go to sit and try and to play your game of chess to have your realization, you should know right away. I surrender. I lay my king down. I don't have a first move. I don't even know where to begin for this. I don't even know what the problem is, right? Because that's the funny thing. Something just popped or was said last week, and I just loved it. This idea that we're looking for something, right? And I said, well, what is this thing that you're looking for? Can you describe it? Well, no. Oh, so you're looking for something that you don't know what it looks like. Yeah. Okay. And when did you when did you last see this thing? Oh, you don't remember ever seeing it. Okay. Oh, when did you lose it? Oh, you don't know when you lost it. Then by what evidence are you looking for anything? You don't know where you had it last. You don't know what it looks like. You don't know. You don't know when you lost it. How will you find such a thing? And yet, is that not the very fundamentals of our spiritual practice? We're looking for something. We think we've lost something. We think we need to fix something, but we don't have any idea about that something. And yet we're so convinced about it. And so the scriptures are positing to you, maybe it's possible that you never lost it. And maybe it's possible that you don't even have to find it. Maybe it's possible that it's everything you've ever seen. Maybe it's possible that it's everything you've ever known. Maybe it is the very here and now that you're sitting in. Maybe it's the very experience of your being when you're not being told by a narrative in the mind, right? Maybe it's a realization and not an achievement. That's exactly what he's pointing at.
Maharaj, can I ask a question?
Yes.
So, in a way, he says, again, you must have the strong desire to find him. Where does that fit in with like total acceptance or acceptance of grace? On the surface, it seems contradictory because having a desire is having a lack of something within yourself and you have the desire to fulfill it. But when one takes on the assumption of grace, then that means that no desire has no place in that.
Well, the grace can be a fulfillment for that desire. It can that desire is kind of a realization of our wrong thinking or a recognition of our wrong thinking, a recognition of our of the truths that we've been told, of our non-doership, of our inner conflict, the voices in our mind, the wrong assumptions that we've made about ourselves. And so when we start seeing all of that confusion and experiencing that confusion, the ups and downs of life, the constant instability, the constant insecurity of this experience of being, when we've identified with something that's constantly changing, the mind and the body, when we're identified with something that is slowly decaying, slowly becoming unstable, you know, so our desire is born of an experience of our wrong thinking, right? It's not a desire that comes from the self for something in addition. This is a desire that is born out of the ego self that's pointing us toward a need to get out of this conundrum of trying to find stability in a world of constant and unrepeating change. And so we have to desire that thing, because that is the one thing that we're seeking from the ego perspective. That's the one thing we don't recognize or don't have, right? And so we need to stop, collect the desires that are going after all the objects that are keeping us in that state of instability. We need to stop seeing them as being there, out there like that. We need to collect them all, right? And understand that all of my activity, all of my desires and expressions in this world are actually me asking for the oneness, for myself, for the nature of being, for all the aspects of the self, you know, that stability, that infinite love, that infinite grace, that infinite wisdom, that infinite power, that immortality. Those are the things that I'm trying to grab through objects in the world. I need to stop that, because until I stop thinking that there's something outside of myself to fix or grab or get, then I can't settle into myself, right? So our desire has to be composed of all the little desires that we've placed for objects. We need to collect those and realize the only thing I've ever wanted is freedom. The only thing I've ever longed for is love. The only thing that's ever made me happy is peace, you know, is presence. And so to gather all of that up and point it in the right direction, so that your desire then goes inward rather than outward. When you collect these things and realize they are all just descriptions of your ever-present self, then you understand, I'm no longer going out there. So that's where the desire changes. The desire of objects or things takes us out. The desire for the self, or for resolution, or for all the qualities, quote, of our being are in. And so when we realize that through discernment, through our constant discrimination, we gather them up, then we're drawn inward. And when we're drawn inward, the noise of mind declines, the distraction of body declines, and we begin to find that silence. And then, exactly as Tattvamayana says, when we begin to find that inner silence, then that which is obvious, that which has always been the elephant in the room, the fact that God everywhere present and always perfect is a statement of being, becomes apparent to us. We're like, oh my God, why was I looking for something infinite? Where did I think it went? Why was I looking for, you know, these things that were everywhere and everything around me? And how could I have lost that? You know, I am the observer. Where have I ever been? I have always been here, and I've always been now. Why do I think that I've lost something? Why am I listening to stories about something that lives in a moment and not on the line of time-space causation? Right? So little by little, yes, it's a desire, a collected desire, collected from the reflections of the ever-changing world and placed on the reality of an ever-present isness within. So it's that. It's taking our desire off the senses and placing our desire in the shrine and finding its fulfillment there, realizing it's already done.
It's almost like a step for acceptance.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. It's a change in direction, really, because it's an ingoing desire and not an outgoing desire.
Thank you, Maharaj.
So when you're not well, you go to a physician. He tells you what's wrong and what the remedy is. If you have confidence in him, if you trust this physician, if you trust your guru, you trust your teacher, right? It makes things simple, right? And that's the real get you in this whole thing, is that it's all very simple. It's just all the reasons that we've come up with of why we can't do it that make it so intriguingly difficult, right? Makes it such a puzzle. And so let go of those assumptions. When you sit today, assume you're realized and just enjoy it. Assume there's nothing to be done. Assume that this God of love is real and imminent and is embracing you with the very air of your room, caressing you with the light through the window of divine love. Sit there and know it. Make your battle not about finding it, but a battle to not resist it, right? Make it a battle of surrender. Fall into it. Mother's lap is huge. She's that wonderful, wonderful, divine, woman. And she's just sitting there, I like to think of a very large, profoundly, fat woman just sitting there, and you're falling back, this tiny little figure, just into that embrace of the divine mother, infinite and infinitely loving and warm and infinitely safe and pure, infinitely infinite. So make that assumption and enjoy your practice. Don't work at it. Enjoy it, because every bit of it is happening within a reality that's already true, that God is everywhere present, that you have never been born, will never die. You do not exist in a set of circumstances and conditions. You are the dreamer herself, ever free, ever pure, full of love, full of grace. And you only need to let it out. So we'll stop there for this morning.